In today's Reddit story, Fiancée called me paranoid for suspecting her male best friend. So I set up a hidden camera. The footage? Disgusting. When I showed her, she scoffed and said, "Okay, so what? You think you're some kind of FBI agent?" I smiled and replied, "Nah, but your rent-free lifestyle just got canceled." Now she's homeless and crying to her mom. My name's Ethan, and up until recently I thought I was going to marry the love of my life. Samantha and I had been together for 4 years. She was smart, funny, and the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking in. Or at least, that's what I used to think. Lately, things had been off. It started small. She'd stay out late more often, always with Trevor, her so-called best friend. I wasn't the jealous type, but something about their friendship had always rubbed me the wrong way. Whenever I brought it up, she'd laugh in my face. "Oh my God, Ethan, you sound so paranoid." "Trevor? Seriously? He's like a brother to me. I can't believe you'd even think that. Gross." She made me feel like an insecure, jealous idiot for even questioning it. I tried to shake it off. I mean, they'd been friends since college, right? Maybe I really was just overthinking it. But then, little things started adding up. Samantha suddenly had no time for me, but endless time for Trevor. She stopped being affectionate, but would light up whenever she got a text from him. Whenever I walked into a room while she was texting, she'd immediately lock her phone. And then came the final straw. One night, I asked her if she wanted to go out to dinner. Just the two of us. A real date night. She barely looked up from her phone. "Ugh, I can't, babe. Work's been brutal, I just need a night in." I nodded, trying not to feel disappointed. "All right, I'll pick up takeout." She smiled. "You're the best." Then, not even 30 minutes later, I got a text from my buddy Chris. "Yo, you at Birchwood? Thought I just saw Samantha here." Birchwood, a trendy rooftop bar, a place Samantha loved, but only ever went to with Trevor. I stared at my phone, my stomach twisting. I could have texted her. I could have called. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I opened the security camera app on my phone and checked our apartment's front door footage. She wasn't home. The couch where she claimed to be resting? Empty. I felt a cold wave of clarity. She'd lied straight to my face. That night, as I sat alone at the dinner table, pushing my food around my plate, I realized something. She was never going to admit it. She would gaslight me forever if I let her. So I stopped asking, stopped arguing, and started planning. From that night on, I stopped asking Samantha about Trevor. I stopped arguing, stopped acting suspicious, stopped doing anything that would tip her off. Instead, I let her dig her own grave. I started paying attention, really paying attention. When she claimed to be working late, I took mental notes of the times. When she got home, I checked the security footage to see if she even left for work at all. When she said, "Ugh, I'm exhausted," I checked her location history. And over the next 2 weeks, a pattern emerged. Samantha wasn't staying late at work. She wasn't running errands. She was always at Trevor's apartment. And that's when I decided to take things a step further. I bought a small, motion-activated hidden camera online. Nothing crazy, just something subtle enough to blend into the background of our apartment. One night, while Samantha was in the shower, I set it up, facing the couch. I had a feeling Trevor had been getting a little too comfortable in my home, and I was right. 2 nights later, I checked the camera. I expected to see something bad, maybe some flirty cuddling, maybe a little too much touching. What I saw made my blood boil. Trevor wasn't just visiting. He was making himself at home. Samantha had let him into my apartment while I was at work. They weren't just hanging out. They were sprawled on my couch, drinking my beer, laughing like they owned the place. Then, the worst part, she got up, stretched, then straddled him, like it was nothing, like I didn't exist. And Trevor? He grabbed her waist and said, "He really has no clue, huh?" I closed my laptop very slowly and smiled. Because what they didn't know, I was about to make them regret every second of it. I sat there for a long time, staring at my laptop screen, my mind completely blank. Then, very calmly, I closed the window, deleted the footage from my camera app, and uploaded it to a private folder. Because if I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. See, most guys would have blown up right then and there. Screamed, confronted her, maybe even thrown Trevor out of the apartment. But that's not how you win. Samantha had been comfortable for way too long. She had everything handed to her. A rent-free life, my credit card for small things, and the safety net of knowing I'd always be there. She thought she was untouchable. So I decided to strip that away. Samantha had access to one of my credit cards. Nothing huge, but enough for gas, food, and whatever little emergencies she always claimed to have. That night, while she was in bed texting Trevor, I logged into my bank app and removed her as an authorized user. No warning, no explanation, just gone. Samantha wasn't on the lease, never had been. She moved in with me after her old roommate bailed, and I took care of everything. So the next morning I called my landlord. Hey, just a heads up, I'd like to update my lease and remove guest permissions. Landlord, no problem, just you in the unit now? Yep, just me. By the time I hung up, Samantha was officially a squatter. She just didn't know it yet. And the best part, I still didn't say a word. I let her think everything was normal. Let her think she was winning. Because the final step was going to be brutal. By this point, Samantha had no idea her life was slowly falling apart. She was still living in my apartment rent-free, still texting Trevor behind my back, still acting like I was some clueless idiot. So I decided to make her a deal she couldn't resist. One night, while we were eating dinner, I casually brought it up. You've been stressed lately. Let's take a vacation. Just the two of us. Her eyes lit up. Really? Yeah, I'll book everything. Luxury suite, spa, all-inclusive. Just us. She smiled, way too excited. But here's what she didn't know. I wasn't booking anything. I was about to pull the rug out from under her so hard, she wouldn't even see it coming. Over the next few days, I let her plan. She told her friends, told her coworkers, told Trevor. I knew because I checked her messages. She texted him, "Babe, don't freak out, but Ethan wants to take me on some fancy trip. Should I go? Lol. Trevor. LMAO, free vacation? Duh, let him spend his money." They were mocking me. And that was the last mistake they'd ever make. 2 days before the trip, I pretended to leave for work. Samantha kissed me goodbye like everything was normal. The second I was out the door, I went full execution mode. Hired a cleaning service, paid them extra to box up every single thing she owned. Changed the locks, no warning, no copies. She was officially locked out. Texted my landlord, confirmed that as of today, Samantha was no longer welcome on the property. And then, I turned off my phone. I let her walk straight into her own nightmare. That evening, I went out with some friends. Just as I was finishing my drink, I turned my phone back on. And boom, 46 missed calls, over 100 texts. I grinned. Then I checked my security camera feed. Samantha was standing outside the apartment building, losing her mind, pounding on the door, screaming into her phone. Then she saw the boxes. The cleaning service had neatly stacked all her belongings right on the curb, and taped to the front of the top box, a printed still from my hidden camera footage, her, on Trevor's lap, underneath, in bold letters, "Rent-free lifestyle, canceled." She crumpled to the ground, sobbing. And I finished my drink and watched her world burn. Samantha's perfect little world wasn't just crumbling, it was being broadcast in high definition. After her public meltdown outside my apartment, she had no idea what was coming next. See, I wasn't just kicking her out. I was making sure she had nowhere left to go. Samantha had a tight-knit friend group, girls she gossiped with, ranted to, and probably complained about me to behind my back. So I did what any rational man would do. I sent them everything. Screenshots of her messages with Trevor, bank records proving I had been paying for everything, footage from my hidden camera, just enough to show the cozy little moments between her and Trevor. Then I sat back and watched the fireworks. My phone exploded. First from her best friend Claire. "What the actual F? We defended her. We called you paranoid." Then from her cousin. "Dude, I had no idea. She told us you were some controlling psycho." Then from Trevor. "Bro, what the hell, you didn't have to do all that." I laughed. "Nah, but it was fun." Then I blocked his number. Turns out, Samantha's friends were ride or die. The second they saw the proof, they dropped her like a bad investment. Claire kicked her from the group chat. Her cousin told their whole family. Her old roommates blocked her. And Trevor? Oh, he folded instantly. He texted her, "Yo, I think we should chill for a while. This is too much drama." She replied, "Are you freaking kidding me?" But he left her on read. Samantha had lost everything. Her home, her friends, her little side piece, and for the first time, she finally realized what it felt like to be disposable. Samantha had officially lost everything. Her friends? Gone. Her home? Gone. Her side piece? Ghosted her. And now, she had one last move, try to manipulate me. 2 nights after her meltdown, I was at home enjoying a beer when my phone buzzed. Samantha. I let it ring. Then a text popped up. Can we talk, please? I smirked. Here we go. I waited an hour. Then just for fun, I texted back, sure, come by. When I opened the door, Samantha was standing there in a hoodie and leggings, eyes red and puffy. She stepped forward like she was going to hug me. I didn't move. She hesitated, then sighed. Ethan, I messed up. I raised an eyebrow. Which part? The cheating? The lying? The freeloading? She flinched. I don't know why I did it. I was just bored, thought I was too dumb to figure it out. She swallowed hard. I still love you. I laughed in her face. You love me? You let another man sit on my couch, drink my beer, and call me clueless. Her eyes darted away. I can make it up to you. I grinned. Oh, I know you can. Her face lit up. Really? Yep. By walking away and never talking to me again. Her jaw dropped. You're really going to throw everything away? I took a step forward, lowered my voice. Nah, but your rent-free lifestyle just got canceled. She stared at me, completely speechless. Then, she turned and ran. Samantha ran out of my apartment that night, but she wasn't done suffering, not even close. Because while she was out there homeless and humiliated, she still had one last safety net. Her mom. Samantha had always been her mom's golden child, the one who could do no wrong. The one who, no matter how badly she screwed up, always got bailed out. So of course she ran straight to her. And, like clockwork, her mom called me the next morning. Ethan, sweetheart, I heard about the breakup. I just think maybe you're being a little harsh. I almost laughed. Harsh? She's devastated. She has nowhere to go. She told me she made a mistake, but don't you think you could? I cut her off. Ma'am, with all due respect, did she also tell you she was cheating on me in my own apartment? Silence. She said it wasn't like that. Oh, but it was, and just for fun I texted her the proof. The security cam screenshot, the text messages with Trevor, the bank records proving I was funding her whole life. Her mom went quiet. Then, Samantha's mom. Ethan, I'm so sorry. Yeah, me too. And just like that, Samantha lost her final safety net. That night, Samantha texted me one last time. Wow, even my own mother won't take me in. Hope you're happy. I smiled. I am. Enjoy your new life. Then I blocked her. Samantha had officially burned every bridge. She wasn't just homeless, she was truly alone. A few months passed. Samantha completely vanished. No Instagram stories, no girls' nights posts, no cryptic tweets about fake people. Her life, which had once revolved around attention and validation, was now radio silent. But then, one random evening, my phone buzzed. A single text. Can we talk? I stared at it for a few seconds. Then, for the first time since this whole mess started, I actually laughed, because I already knew what had happened. Trevor never took her in. Her best friends cut her off. Her mom, done with her. She had nowhere left to run. And now, months later, she thought I'd be stupid enough to let her back in. I didn't even bother replying. I just blocked her number. Then I tossed my phone on the couch, cracked open a beer, and went back to enjoying my life. Because for the first time in years, I was finally free. After a year of marriage, my wife still wouldn't let me see her phone. When I finally asked why, she said, real men don't need passwords. That night while she slept, I checked her phone and discovered an entire folder of photos with her ex. I didn't wake her up, just packed a bag and left the wedding album on the kitchen table. She's been calling me nonstop ever since. Before we start, I just want to say thank you for being here. It means the world. But take a look at this. Only 8% of people watching are subscribed. If you enjoy these stories and want to support more of them, just one click makes a huge difference. I should have known something was off from the beginning. When I met Olivia at my cousin's wedding 2 years ago, she was charming, vivacious, and constantly checking her phone. I thought it was just a millennial thing. I'm 44, she's 36. Not a huge gap, but enough that our relationships with technology differ slightly. During our courtship, I never thought twice about her phone habits. She'd tilt the screen away when texting, change her password regularly, and keep it on silent, face down. I respected her privacy, never asked to see it, never showed any interest in who she was communicating with. I assumed this was normal in modern relationships. When we got married last year, I thought things would change naturally. They didn't. If anything, Olivia became more protective of her phone. It was never out of her sight. She'd take it to the bathroom during showers. She'd sleep with it next to her on the nightstand, always face down. Once, when I picked it up to move it while cleaning, she quickly came over to take it back. Still, I said nothing. I believed in trust, in giving each other space. I've never been the jealous type, never felt the need to monitor her communications or friendships. If she needed privacy, I was happy to give it to her. Until the passwords became a pattern in other areas of our lives. 6 months into our marriage, I asked for the login information to our joint bank account, which she had set up. "Why do you need it?" she asked, immediately defensive. I explained that I wanted to check our balance before making a large purchase for the house. She made me wait while she looked it up herself, then read the balance to me. Never gave me the login information. A month later, we needed to log into our shared cloud storage to retrieve some tax documents. Again, she insisted on doing it herself, refusing to share the login credentials. Despite these red flags, I maintained my composure. I'm a structural engineer by profession. I deal in facts, calculations, verifiable data. I noticed the inconsistencies in her behavior, but I didn't want to make accusations based on suspicions alone. However, I did begin to document these incidents, noting dates and circumstances. The breaking point came last week. My brother had been in a serious car accident, and I'd left my phone at home while rushing to the hospital. When I realized this, I asked to borrow Olivia's phone to call my sister for an update. "Just use the hospital phone," she said, her hand instinctively covering her device. "It's long distance," I explained. "Please, it'll just take a minute." She reluctantly handed it over. But only after quickly closing several apps, I saw her do this, and warning me not to snoop around. That night, after confirming my brother would recover, I finally asked the question that had been building for months. "Why won't you ever let me see your phone, or share any passwords with me?" She didn't look up from her screen. "I believe in privacy in relationships, even from your husband, even for shared accounts." She sighed dramatically, as if I was being unreasonable. "God, Marcus, real men don't need passwords. Real men trust their wives without invading their privacy." The words landed like a slap. Not because they hurt, but because of their practiced delivery, as if she'd used this line before, as if it was a prepared defense. I didn't press further that evening, but her words replayed in my mind as I tried to sleep. Real men don't need passwords. It wasn't about trust anymore. It was about manipulation. After careful consideration, and recognizing that our state is a no-fault divorce state, meaning evidence of infidelity wouldn't significantly impact proceedings, I decided I needed to know what I was dealing with. The fact that I didn't have access to our jointly owned accounts was concerning enough from a financial safety perspective. The next morning, I hired a private investigator to follow Olivia, explaining my concerns about potential infidelity and financial manipulation. While this was an expensive route, it felt more legally sound than attempting to access her private device without permission. Within a week, the PI had gathered substantial evidence. Olivia was indeed meeting regularly with her ex-boyfriend Ryan, who was separated from his wife, but not yet divorced. They had been seen entering hotels together during times Olivia had claimed to be at work conferences. The PI also documented them using my car, which explained the unexplained mileage I'd noticed recently. Most concerning, the PI managed to photograph them reviewing documents together in a coffee shop. Documents that appeared to be financial in nature, with what looked like my name visible on some pages. Armed with this evidence, I contacted a lawyer who advised me on the proper steps to protect myself. With legal guidance, I did the following. 1. Requested and received login information for all joint financial accounts from our bank directly. As a joint account holder, I had every legal right to this information. 2. Documented that significant sums had been transferred from our joint account to an account I didn't recognize, approximately $2,000 monthly for the past 6 months. 3. With my lawyer present, I accessed these records and discovered Olivia had been diverting funds to a separate account in her name only. Following my lawyer's advice, I did not immediately confront Olivia. Instead, 1. Secured copies of all financial records. 2. Withdrew exactly half of the remaining joint funds to a new account in my name only, leaving detailed documentation of this transaction with my lawyer. 3. Secured my personal belongings and important documents. 4. Arranged temporary housing. On the day I planned to leave, I waited until Olivia left for her Pilates class. I left our wedding album on the kitchen table, open to a photo of us exchanging vows. On it, I placed my house key and a letter from my lawyer outlining that I was initiating divorce proceedings based on financial impropriety, with evidence of the diverted funds. I noted that I would be staying at a hotel temporarily, and all further communication should go through my attorney, whose contact information was provided. I checked into a hotel across town. By noon, my phone started blowing up with calls from Olivia. I didn't answer. Text messages followed. Where are you? Why did you take your things? What's going on? Call me right now. Each message more desperate than the last, but none acknowledging what she'd done. By evening, the tone had changed. Please come home so we can talk. Whatever you think you know, you're wrong. I can explain everything. Please don't do this to us. I maintained my silence, following my lawyer's advice to avoid any communications that could be used against me later. The next day, my lawyer confirmed he'd contacted Olivia with formal notice of divorce proceedings, citing financial misconduct and including evidence of the diverted funds. That's when her messages became frantic. How dare you spy on me? Those transfers are not what you think. Ryan was just helping me with investments. You're overreacting. You had no right to invade my privacy. And finally, the most telling, you'll never find anyone like me. On that point at least, we agreed. By day 3, she'd recruited reinforcements. My phone showed missed calls from her parents, her sister, even my own mother. I spoke only to my mother, briefly explaining the situation and sharing some of the evidence. She was horrified but understood immediately why I'd left. Olivia showed up at my office that afternoon. My assistant, who knew about the situation, refused to let her in. She created such a scene that security had to escort her out. My coworkers witnessed the entire spectacle, her screaming that I was acting crazy and throwing away our marriage over nothing. That evening, I finally broke my silence with a single text. Contact will now be through our respective attorneys only. Her response was immediate. You're making a huge mistake. I was helping Ryan through his divorce. The money was just a loan. I almost laughed at the absurdity, the desperate lie. I didn't respond. On day 5, a large flower arrangement arrived at my office with a card pleading for a second chance. I donated the flowers to a nearby nursing home. On day 7, her father called, offering to mediate the situation. I politely declined, explaining that the evidence was unambiguous. Olivia made her choice. I told him, I'm simply protecting myself at this point. The most unexpected development came on day 10. Ryan's estranged wife, Angel, contacted me through my lawyer. She'd discovered the affair from her end and wanted to share information. We met in my lawyer's office to ensure everything was properly documented. Two strangers united by betrayal and shared what we knew. Turns out, Ryan and Olivia had reconnected 2 years ago, around the time Olivia and I were getting serious. They had been involved throughout my courtship and marriage to Olivia. Angela showed me text messages from Ryan's phone, which she had legal access to as it was a family plan in her name, where they discussed me, mocking my obliviousness, laughing about how I accepted Olivia's excuses without question. He's so trusting, it's almost sad, Olivia had written. Real men don't need passwords. Ryan had replied with a laughing emoji, an inside joke between them at my expense. It's been 2 weeks now. The divorce proceedings are moving forward. Olivia has switched tactics from begging to threats, from threats to bargaining. Her latest offer, delivered through her attorney, she'll return the diverted funds if I promise not to share the real reason for our divorce with friends and family. She's worried about her reputation, about people discovering who she really is. I refused. Not out of spite, but out of principle. I won't lie about what happened, won't manufacture a more palatable story to protect the woman who spent a year lying to my face. If she wanted privacy, she should have behaved privately. Yesterday, my personal belongings were delivered from our house, packed by a service I'd hired to avoid any interaction with Olivia. Among them was a small box containing items I hadn't packed. Birthday cards I'd given her, concert tickets from our dates, the watch I'd given her as a wedding gift. Her attempt at emotional manipulation, no doubt. At the bottom of the box was a handwritten letter, 10 pages of explanations, justifications, and pleas for understanding. I read it completely, as my lawyer advised, documenting all communications, then provided it to him for the case file. The letter essentially admitted to the relationship with Ryan, but attempted to minimize it while simultaneously blaming me for not being emotionally available enough. Some people never take responsibility, even when confronted with irrefutable evidence of their actions. Some people will always make themselves the victim, even when they're the architect of the destruction. As for me, I'm staying in a furnished apartment until the divorce is finalized. I'm focusing on work, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected during my marriage, and rebuilding the parts of myself that I compromised to accommodate Olivia's deceptions. Real men don't need passwords, she said. But real men do know when to walk away. Eat it. Some clarifications based on comments. 1. Yes, I was within my legal rights to take half of our joint account. The account was specifically designated for household expenses to which we both contributed equally. My lawyer confirmed this was appropriate and documented the transaction properly. 2. For those asking why I hired a PI instead of confronting her first, when someone is being deceptive while hiding evidence, confrontation would have only given her time to delete evidence and craft better lies. I needed to know what I was dealing with from a legal perspective. 3. Several people have commented that Olivia might try to claim I abandoned the marriage. My lawyer assured me that with the documented evidence of financial impropriety and the proper notice I provided, this won't be an issue in our state's divorce proceedings. 4. No, I don't regret my approach to discovering the truth. Privacy is important in marriage, but so is honesty. When one partner is clearly hiding something consequential to the relationship and diverting shared finances, it becomes a legal as well as personal issue. 5. Angela and I are not dating, for those who asked. We've met twice in legal settings to share information relevant to our respective divorces. That's it. Update. 1 month later, the divorce process continues, but the emotional storm has somewhat calmed. Olivia has finally stopped trying to contact me directly and is working through her lawyer, as she should have been doing all along. An unexpected development: Ryan appears to have disappeared from Olivia's life completely. According to information revealed during divorce proceedings, he reconciled with his wife once the affair was exposed. Olivia is now telling people I was controlling and invasive, rewiring the narrative to cast herself as the victim. Few believe her, especially after the financial evidence came to light during the proceedings. I've settled into my new apartment, which feels more like home than our house ever did. There's something freeing about shedding a relationship built on deception. I've started rock climbing again, a hobby I'd given up during my marriage because Olivia found it boring, and reconnected with old friends. The most valuable lesson from all this: trust your instincts. When something feels wrong consistently, it probably is. Real relationships don't need secrecy, manipulation, or the phrase, "real men don't need passwords." Final update: 6 months later. The divorce was finalized last week. In the end, Olivia was ordered to return the diverted funds plus interest, and we divided our remaining assets according to state law. I've learned that she and Ryan briefly got back together after his wife filed for divorce, but it didn't last. According to mutual friends, he left her for someone else. Poetic justice, perhaps. As for me, I've purchased a cabin by the lake, something I'd always wanted but Olivia had dismissed as too rustic. I split my time between there and my city apartment. Work is going well. I was promoted to senior project manager last month. I've started dating again, cautiously. The woman I'm seeing now, a wildlife photographer I met on a hiking trail, handed me her phone on our third date to show me pictures she'd taken. When I commented on her lack of phone security, she shrugged and said, "I don't have anything to hide." It shouldn't have felt as significant as it did, but after Olivia, transparency feels like a gift. Not because I need her passwords, but because the absence of secrecy indicates the absence of deception. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can take from a broken relationship is the wisdom to recognize a whole one when you find it. At my birthday party, I gave my fiancée a gift, She opened it in front of her friends and said, "This is why I can't wait to upgrade." They all snickered. I just smiled, blew out my candle, and left the cake on the table. A week later, she showed up to a different apartment. "All right, Reddit, I've been a long-time lurker, but the last month of my life has been such a spectacular train wreck that I feel like I owe it to the internet to share the story. The best part? I was the one conducting the train. It all came to a head on my 35th birthday. Now, when I say my birthday, I use the term loosely. It was technically a celebration of the day I was born, but the party itself had very little to do with me. I had pitched the idea of a quiet steak dinner. My fiancée, Sarah, countered with a 50-person cocktail party at our apartment. Our apartment, of course, being the one I paid for. Her friends, of course, being the 50 people. I lost that negotiation, as I often did. The week before the party, she sat me down with the kind of serious look a CEO gives before announcing layoffs. "Babe, we need to talk about your birthday gift," she said. I was confused. "You got me a gift?" I hadn't seen any evidence of this. She laughed, a pretty but completely empty sound. "No, silly, the gift you're getting me." I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. "You want me to buy you a gift? For my birthday?" "Exactly," she said, relieved that I was catching on. "It's not really for me, it's for us, it's for our brand. Tiffany is going to be there, and you know she'll be live streaming the whole thing. I just want to have something shiny to open, to show everyone how amazing you are." I'm not a simp. Let's just get that out of the way. I'm a crisis manager. I work for a large international NGO. When there's an earthquake, a flood, or a political collapse, I'm the guy they send in to make sense of the chaos. I assess unstable situations, I manage logistics in impossible environments, and I make hard, logical decisions when everyone else is panicking. My entire life is about identifying and neutralizing threats to a mission. For the past year, my personal life has been my mission's shore leave. After a particularly brutal stint managing aid distribution in a conflict zone, I came home completely burned out. I met Sarah a few weeks later. She was beautiful, fun, and her biggest problem in life was which brunch spot had the best lighting for Instagram. It was perfect. Our relationship wasn't a passion project. It was a decompression chamber. I knew what she was. She and her friends, led by the perpetually unimpressed Tiffany, were a case study in terminal vapidity. I wasn't investing in a future with her. I was observing a foreign culture while my soul rebooted. I was paying for a front row seat to a very strange, very shallow documentary. So when she asked me to buy her a gift for my birthday, I didn't even argue. I just logged it as another data point. "Okay," I said, "I'll take care of it." The night of the party was exactly as awful as I'd imagined. The apartment was filled with people named Chad and Ashley and Tiffany, all talking loudly about things that didn't matter. I played the part of the gracious host, smiling and nodding while my brain was mentally calculating the supply chain logistics for a hypothetical refugee camp. I hadn't received a single thing from Sarah. No card, no happy birthday, nothing. I was just the guy funding the open bar. Then came the main event. Tiffany, who has the predatory instincts of a cheetah and the intellectual depth of a puddle, got everyone's attention. "Okay, people, time for the moment we've all been waiting for. Sarah's gift." Sarah beamed, shooting me a look that said, "This better be good." I handed her the box. It wasn't the Cartier bracelet she had been leaving open on her browser tabs. Inside was a vintage, first edition copy of The Wind in the Willows. It was the only thing I had from my late mother. It was the most valuable object I owned, not in money, but in meaning. I'd had it professionally restored. Inside I'd written, "For all the adventures we have yet to begin." It was a test, a final one. I wanted to see if there was anything under the surface. She opened it. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second as she stared at the old book. But she was a professional. She held it up for Tiffany's phone. "Oh my God, babe," she said, her voice straining to sound sincere. "A book? It's so thoughtful." Tiffany zoomed in, a confused look on her face. Then Sarah, high on champagne and the attention of 50 of her closest sycophants, made a fatal error. She looked at her friends, let out a little laugh, and said the words that sealed her fate. "It's sweet, but this is exactly why I can't wait to upgrade." Her friends exploded in laughter. It was the punchline to a joke I hadn't realized I was the butt of for the past year. In that moment, The mission brief in my head changed. The decompression was over. The environment had turned hostile. The objective was no longer observation, it was extraction. I just smiled. I walked over to the sad, untouched birthday cake, picked up a single cupcake, and lit the candle. I held it up. "Make a wish," I said to no one in particular. Then I blew it out, set the cupcake down, and walked straight into my home office, closing the door behind me. The crisis had officially begun, and I was now fully activated. Update 1. The first rule of crisis management is to secure your assets and establish a safe operating base. While the party was dying down, I was in my office, executing a full-scale operational withdrawal. Sarah, I assume, thought I was just pouting. She had no idea I was orchestrating a coup against her entire way of life. My primary asset was the apartment. The lease was in my name, a non-negotiable term from the start. A crisis manager never co-signs anything in an unstable region. At 2 a.m., I emailed the landlord. I gave my 30-day notice, CCing my lawyer. I informed him I was vacating immediately, but that the final month's rent was covered. I also stated that the other occupant, Sarah, would be responsible for the final walkthrough and key handover. This simple email transferred the full liability of the apartment and the headache of dealing with her directly to the landlord. Next, I secured my supply lines. I logged into my bank and credit card accounts. Sarah was an authorized user on everything. It took me less than 5 minutes to revoke her access to a small fortune in available credit. I rerouted all my income to a new, secure account. The logistical support for the Sarah project was now officially cut off. I have an emergency bag packed at all times. It's a habit from my line of work. It contains cash, a satellite phone, copies of my documents, and a change of clothes. I grabbed it, along with my work laptop and the book she had discarded on the counter. By 4 a.m., I had extracted myself from the hot zone. I didn't go to a hotel. I went to a small, unassuming apartment I'd leased under my company's name 6 months ago. A good manager always has a fallback position. From this new command center, I moved on to the next phase, dismantling the opposition's infrastructure. Sarah's power base wasn't her own, it was her network, and the queen of that network was Tiffany. Tiffany was a problem. She was an influencer, which is another word for a professional parasite. Her entire existence was a carefully curated lie, funded by a combination of her wealthy parents and a series of scams she ran on small businesses. I knew this because for the past year, I had been treating her as a potential hostile actor. I had done my homework. My job has taught me how to find the cracks in any system. Tiffany's biggest vulnerability was a charity she was promoting. She was raising money for a fake animal shelter, complete with a slick website and heart-wrenching stock photos of sad-looking puppies. It was a classic grift. I spent the next morning putting together a dossier. It was a professional intelligence brief. It contained a full analysis of her fake charity, screenshots of her soliciting donations, and a financial trace I ran that showed the donation link went directly to her personal PayPal account. I also included evidence of her buying tens of thousands of fake followers and the return fraud scheme she was running with Sarah using my credit cards. I didn't post it online. A public attack is messy. A targeted strike is efficient. I sent the dossier from an anonymous encrypted email address to 3 specific targets: an investigative reporter at a local news station who specialized in online scams, the IRS's charity fraud division, and Tiffany's father. With the primary hostile neutralized, I turned to her secondary support units. Her other friends. One of them, a girl named Madison, worked in a junior role at a large investment bank. A job like that requires a rigorous background check and a high level of personal integrity. I did a quick search of her public social media. It was a treasure trove of photos of her at parties, clearly intoxicated and bragging about her wild weekends. I compiled a small, neat package of these public posts and sent it anonymously to her firm's head of compliance, with a simple note: "Is this the public image your company wishes to project?" The final piece was Sarah's upgrade plan, a man named Richard. He was a wealthy, recently divorced businessman she had been lining up. I didn't need to attack him. I just needed to make Sarah seem like a high-risk liability. I knew Richard was in the middle of a contentious divorce. I simply sent an anonymous email to his divorce lawyer's office with a link to Tiffany's live stream of the party, specifically the clip where Sarah talks about her plans to upgrade. I added a simple message. Thought you might find this relevant to the discussion of your client's new associations. By the time Sarah woke up on what she probably thought was just another lazy Saturday, her entire world was rigged to blow. Her credit cards were useless. Her apartment was a ticking time bomb. Her best friend was about to be investigated for fraud, and her escape route was about to be cut off. The first text from her arrived at 11:32 a.m. Hey, where are you? And more importantly, why was my card declined at the coffee shop? I was already miles away, drinking my own coffee, watching my assets deploy. I didn't reply. You don't talk to a crisis, you manage it. Update 2. The first explosions were everything I had planned for, and more. The news story about Tiffany's fake puppy charity broke 2 days later. It was brutal. The reporter I'd tipped off did a fantastic job laying out the entire scam in excruciating detail. Tiffany's name and face were everywhere. The IRS launched an immediate investigation. Her father, a man who valued his family's reputation above all else, completely disowned her. Tiffany's influencer career was not just over, it was a smoking crater. Her reaction was to immediately turn on Sarah. Their text messages, which I was still able to access for a short time, were a masterclass in betrayal. Tiffany blamed Sarah for everything, for bringing me into their lives, for being the one whose boyfriend's credit card was used in the fraud. She threatened to expose Sarah's own involvement to the authorities to save herself. The network of fake friendship had collapsed into a cage match. While this was happening, Sarah was in her own personal hell. The landlord had served her with the papers. She had to either qualify for the $5,000 a month lease on her own, an impossibility, or be out in less than a month. Her frantic calls to me went unanswered. The other friends in her circle were also in disarray. Madison, the investment banker, was called into an emergency meeting with HR. She wasn't fired, but she was put on a strict professional probation and stripped of any client-facing duties. The others, seeing the carnage, scattered like cockroaches when the lights come on. They wanted nothing to do with Sarah or the drama that now surrounded her. The final nail in the coffin was Richard. His divorce lawyer, armed with the video of Sarah's upgrade comment, almost certainly used it to paint a picture of Richard as a reckless man already associating with opportunistic women. I can only imagine the conversation Richard had after that. He didn't just ghost Sarah. He blocked her on every platform and reportedly told a mutual acquaintance that she was the kind of train wreck that could derail a city. In the span of a single week, Sarah had gone from being the queen of her social circle to a complete outcast. She had no money, no apartment, no friends, and no escape plan. She was completely, utterly alone, stranded in the middle of a disaster zone I had engineered with the cold, detached precision of a military operation. She had created a crisis with a single careless sentence. I had simply managed it to its logical conclusion. Final update. It has been a month since my birthday party. For weeks, I had complete radio silence. I continued my life, enjoying the peace and quiet of my new secure apartment. I went to the gym. I caught up on work. I read the book my mother had given me. It was a system restore for my own soul. Then last week she showed up. She wasn't at my new apartment. She was at my office. She had waited in the lobby for hours until I came down at the end of the day. She looked broken. The arrogance was gone. The designer clothes looked worn. She was a refugee from a country of her own making. She launched into the predictable speech. She was sorry. She had made a terrible mistake. She had been insecure and her friends were a bad influence. She loved me. She wanted another chance. I let her finish. I didn't interrupt. When she was finally out of words, I just looked at her. You don't get it, do you? I said, my voice quiet but firm. You think this was about my feelings. You think I did all of this because I was mad. She just stared at me, her eyes full of tears. This wasn't about anger, Sarah, I continued. This was about risk assessment. My job is to walk into chaotic, unstable situations and stabilize them. I identify the primary source of the instability, and I neutralize it. For the last year, my personal life has been my most unstable region, and you were the primary source of the chaos. I pulled out my phone and showed her a picture. It was a satellite image of a disaster zone I had worked in a few years ago, a town completely devastated by a mudslide. "This is what I do," I said. "I don't get emotional about the mudslide. I just build a new, safer place for people to live, away from the danger." I put my phone away. "Your comment at the party wasn't an insult. It was a threat assessment." It was the moment I realized the situation was no longer sustainable. You, Tiffany, your entire network, you were the mudslide, a slow-moving disaster destroying everything in your path. "So I didn't just get mad and leave," I said, looking her straight in the eye. "I did my job. I managed the crisis. I evacuated the critical asset, me. I cut off the resources that were feeding the instability, my money, and I dismantled the hostile infrastructure that was making the situation worse, your friends and your pathetic upgrade plan. It wasn't a breakup, Sarah. It was a strategic relocation of assets to a more secure footing." The final, horrifying understanding dawned on her face. She hadn't been dumped by her boyfriend. She had been professionally handled by a man who saw her as nothing more than a problem to be solved. "But what am I supposed to do now?" she whispered. "I have nothing." "That's not true," I said, turning to walk away. "You have a valuable learning experience. You learned that some people aren't just a stopover on your way to an upgrade. Some of us are the ones who decide where the road goes. And your road just led you right back to the beginning." I left her standing on the sidewalk in front of my office building. I heard later that she had to move back in with her parents. She's working in a coffee shop. Tiffany is facing a mountain of legal problems. The rest of her friends have scattered. The entire toxic ecosystem has been wiped clean. My revenge wasn't a crime of passion. It was a work of cold, hard, professional logic. She thought she was playing a social game. She didn't realize I was playing a game of survival. And in my game, I always control the board. I only said yes because no one better has asked yet. My fiancée told her best friend, "I can always divorce him if someone better comes along." My cousin was getting her hair done in the same salon and heard everything. She sent me the recording. I didn't say a word, just waited until she got home, walked over, and took the ring off her finger. She froze. 2 days later, she was at my door in her wedding dress, begging me to talk. I've never considered myself particularly lucky in relationships. Average looks, decent career as an architect, nothing that would make heads turn. When Natalie agreed to date me 3 years ago, I thought I'd beaten the odds. When she accepted my proposal 6 months ago, I was convinced I'd won the lottery. Turns out, I was just a placeholder. The revelation came on a Thursday. I was reviewing blueprints for a commercial project when my phone buzzed with a message from my cousin Emma. "We're close. Grew up together, shared a dorm in college, still meet for coffee most weekends. Call me ASAP. It's about Natalie." I stepped out of the office and called immediately, stomach already tightening with dread. "I'm sending you something," Emma said without preamble. "I'm sorry, but you need to hear this." The audio file arrived seconds later. Emma explained she'd been getting highlights at Bellamy's salon when Natalie and her best friend Vanessa walked in, taking the stations directly behind her. They couldn't see Emma behind the partition, and the dryers running nearby created enough background noise that they spoke freely. The recording quality wasn't perfect, but the voices were unmistakable. "So how's wedding planning going? You seem so calm about everything." "Why stress? It's not like it's necessarily permanent." "What's that supposed to mean? You just dropped 20 grand on a venue deposit." "I only said yes because no one better has asked yet. I can always divorce him if someone better comes along." "Natalie, that's cold even for you." "Oh please, like you haven't thought the same thing. Look, Ryan's fine. Stable job, owns his place, decent enough in bed. But he's not exactly what I pictured ending up with, you know? He's just safe. Does he have any idea?" "God, no. He thinks I hung the moon." "It's sweet, really, but sometimes I feel like I'm just settling." "What about that guy from your office, the one you mentioned?" "Chris, nothing's happened yet, but there's definitely something there. He just made partner too." "So why go through with the wedding?" "Because birds in hand, right? If things develop with Chris, I'll figure it out. If not, Ryan's a decent backup plan. Either way, I'm covered." The recording continued for another minute, their conversation shifting to wedding dress alterations, as if they hadn't just discussed the disposability of my place in Natalie's life. I listened to it 3 times, then sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at nothing. The calm that settled over me wasn't what I expected. No rage, no urge to scream or break things, just clarity. Cold and absolute. I returned to my office, finished my workday with mechanical precision, then drove home to the apartment Natalie and I had shared for the past year. Our wedding was 8 weeks away. Invitations sent, venue booked, honeymoon flights purchased, a life planned. All based on a lie. I didn't confront her that night, didn't demand explanations or call her names. Just acted normal, asked about her day, made dinner, watched a movie, all while mentally cataloging everything I needed to handle. The next morning, I took a personal day while Natalie went to work. Then I methodically began dismantling our future. First, I called the venue and explained the situation. The manager was surprisingly sympathetic. Apparently, I wasn't the first groom to cancel after discovering bride-to-be wasn't who she claimed. She agreed to refund half the deposit given the circumstances. Next, I contacted our honeymoon resort and canceled the reservation. Called my groomsmen. Emailed immediate family. Each conversation brief, factual, devoid of drama. The wedding's off. I'll explain later. Please respect my privacy for now. By afternoon, I'd moved all my essential documents and irreplaceable items to a storage unit. By evening, I'd secured a short-term rental starting the following week. Everything executed with the same focused efficiency I bring to my architectural projects. When Natalie came home that evening, nothing appeared unusual. I'd made her favorite pasta, opened a bottle of wine. She chatted about work drama, mentioned alterations for her wedding dress, complained about the seating chart. After dinner, as we sat on the couch with our wine, I finally spoke the first honest words of the evening. "Let me see your ring for a minute." She looked confused but extended her hand. The 2-carat diamonds sparkled under the living room light, 3 months of my salary on her finger. I took her hand gently, slid the ring off, and placed it in my pocket. "What are you doing?" she asked, confusion turning to alarm. I played the recording. The color drained from her face as her own voice filled the room. Her expression cycled through shock, embarrassment, and finally calculation as she formulated her defense. When the recording ended, I simply said, "The wedding's canceled. I've handled the venue, the honeymoon, and notified my side of the guest list. I'll be moving out next week. You can stay until the lease ends in 3 months." "Ryan, that's not, I didn't mean." "I'm not interested in explanations, Natalie. Your words were perfectly clear. It was just girl talk. Everyone says stupid things to their friends." I stayed silent, watching her scramble for excuses. "Who recorded that? That's illegal. You can't just spy on private conversations. Emma was getting her hair done. You didn't notice her. One-party consent is legal in this state." Natalie's tactics shifted rapidly from denial to anger to tears. A manipulative cycle I recognized from smaller conflicts throughout our relationship. When nothing worked, she finally resorted to the truth. "Fine, maybe I do have doubts. That's normal. Everyone has doubts before a wedding." "Doubts are normal. Seeing me as a placeholder until something better comes along isn't." I stood up, ending the conversation. "I have an early meeting tomorrow. Good night." She slept at Vanessa's that night. I changed the passcode on my phone and enabled 2-factor authentication on all accounts. Natalie had always known my passwords, trust that now seemed dangerously naive. The next day passed without contact. I assumed she was strategizing, gathering allies, preparing her counteroffensive. I was right. On day 2, the barrage began. First came the phone calls, from Natalie, from her parents, from mutual friends who'd only heard her version. I let everything go to voicemail, responding only to texts with brief, factual messages. "Yes, the wedding is canceled. No, this isn't open for discussion. I'll arrange to collect my things next weekend." Her mother called 7 times, leaving increasingly hostile messages about commitment and working through problems and the cost of cancellations. I saved each one without responding. That evening, as I was finishing dinner in my quiet apartment, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Natalie, wearing her wedding dress, makeup streaked with tears, clutching a small bouquet of what appeared to be hastily gathered flowers from the grocery store across the street. It was both pathetic and calculated, the ultimate visual guilt trip. If I opened the door, neighbors would see a crying bride pleading with her cold-hearted fiancé. Maximum emotional leverage. I didn't open the door. She rang again, knocked, called my phone repeatedly. Eventually, she sat down in the hallway, wedding dress pooling around her, and began talking loudly enough for me to hear through the door. "Ryan, please. I know you're in there. I made a terrible mistake. I didn't mean any of it. I love you. Please just talk to me." I recorded her performance from inside, documenting the manipulation for my own sanity. After 30 minutes, a neighbor finally emerged and asked her to leave. I heard her explain through theatrical sobs that her fiancé was having a breakdown and refusing to talk about their problems. Eventually, she left. The emotional ambush had failed. Later that night, I emailed her, "Don't come to the apartment unannounced again. I'll be collecting my things on Saturday at 10 a.m. If you prefer not to be present, let me know and I'll arrange for someone else to be there." Her reply came within minutes. "You're really throwing away 3 years over one stupid conversation? This isn't like you, Ryan. You've always been understanding. Please, can we just talk in person? No games, no dress, just talking." I responded with the only truth that mattered. The person I was understanding toward doesn't exist. She was a projection of who I thought you were. The real you sees me as a backup plan. I deserve better than that. Saturday came. I arrived with 3 friends to help move my furniture and remaining belongings. Natalie wasn't there. Just a note on the counter and the key to my car, which she occasionally used. The note read simply, "I never meant to hurt you. When you calm down, call me." I threw it away and continued packing. 2 weeks later, I was settled in my new place. Changed my phone number, kept my social media deactivated, focused on work. Natalie's attempts to contact me continued through increasingly creative channels. Emails to my work account, messages through mutual friends, even a letter to my parents' house. I maintained complete silence, not out of spite, but self-preservation. There was nothing left to say. A month after the recording, Emma spotted Natalie having lunch with Chris from her office, her hand on his arm, laughing at something he said. I felt nothing but relief that my instinct had been correct. 6 months later, I ran into Vanessa at a local coffee shop. She looked uncomfortable but approached anyway. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she said. "What Natalie did was wrong. I should have called her out harder that day." I nodded. "Thank you for that." "Are you okay now?" she asked cautiously. I considered the question. Was I okay? The pain had dulled. The embarrassment of canceling a wedding had faded. The trust issues remained, but I was working on them. "I'm getting there," I answered honestly. As I was leaving, Vanessa called after me. For what it's worth, she regrets it. Not just getting caught, the actual attitude. She knows she messed up something real. I nodded again but didn't respond. Her regret wasn't my responsibility. That night, I looked at the engagement ring sitting in my safe. I'd had options. Return it for a partial refund, sell it online, keep it as a reminder. Instead, I decided to have it reset into cufflinks. Not to wear regularly, but to keep as a reminder that sometimes the most valuable architectural skill is knowing when to demolish rather than renovate. Some structures can't be saved. Some foundations are fatally flawed from the beginning. And sometimes, walking away isn't just an option, it's the only blueprint that makes sense. Update 8 months later. Since many asked for an update, here's where things stand. I've been seeing someone new for about 3 months, taking it slow, being intentionally transparent about expectations. She's actually a contractor I met through work. Someone who builds things for a living, which feels symbolically right. Natalie and Chris made their relationship official about 2 months after our split. According to mutual friends, it lasted roughly 5 months before imploding spectacularly when she discovered he was seeing 2 other women simultaneously. The irony isn't lost on me. She tried reaching out again after their breakup, a long email about perspective and growth and understanding what she lost. I read it, acknowledged it mentally, but maintained my silence. Some doors should remain closed. The financial aftermath was surprisingly manageable. The venue kept half the deposit but refunded the rest due to the circumstances. The honeymoon was partially refunded as credit for future travel, which I used for a solo trip to Japan. something Natalie had always vetoed as too foreign for her taste. Several friends initially sided with Natalie, believing I was overreacting to just venting. Most came around after hearing the actual recording. Those who didn't are no longer in my life, which feels like additional clutter cleared away. Emma remains my hero in all this. When Natalie confronted her about the recording, Emma simply said, "You shouldn't say things you wouldn't want repeated." Their mutual friends eventually chose sides, with most recognizing Natalie's behavior for what it was. The most unexpected outcome has been professional. The focus and discipline I channeled into dismantling my personal life translated into my work, leading to a significant promotion. Turns out, architectural precision is valuable in many contexts. For those asking if I regret not giving her a second chance, not for a moment. The wedding dress stunt revealed the performative nature of her remorse. Real regret doesn't need an audience or theatrical props. Some commenters suggested I was cold, calculating in my response. Perhaps. But emotional reactions would have given her exactly what she needed. Drama she could reframe, tears she could manipulate, anger she could point to as the real problem. Silent efficiency was the only language that couldn't be mistranslated. The cufflinks, they're finished, sitting in a drawer. I haven't worn them yet. Maybe someday they'll just be cufflinks, not symbols of a lesson learned the hard way. Until then, I'm building something new, with better materials and a much stronger foundation. Edit. Many asked about legal implications of the recording. In my state, one-party consent is sufficient for audio recording in public places. A salon qualifies as public, and Emma was party to the conversation by virtue of being within earshot. I consulted with an attorney before making any decisions based on the recording. Her mom called me crying this morning, asking why her daughter was being evicted from the apartment I secretly owned. I told her the truth. After 6 years together, her daughter said she wasn't sure about marrying me. Then joked in front of her friends that if I were richer, she'd marry me. So I showed her exactly how rich I actually was by ending her lease. But here's what she didn't know about the apartment she's being evicted from. I own it. The whole building, 8 units. Bought it 3 years ago. She's been paying rent to me this entire time without knowing it. And that's just the beginning of what I've been hiding. This started 6 years ago when I met Amanda in college. She was studying to be a teacher, seemed down to earth, valued experiences over things. We connected on real levels. I thought she was different, but I had a secret. My grandfather built a manufacturing empire, sold it for 9 figures in the 90s, set up trust funds for his grandchildren. When I turned 25, I got access to mine, millions, enough to buy anything, go anywhere, never work a day in my life. But I kept my job as a project manager, making $70,000 a year and never told anyone. Why? Because my older brother got married at 26. His wife found out about his trust fund after the wedding. Everything changed overnight. She went from loving to demanding. Wanted a bigger house, luxury cars, designer everything. They divorced 2 years later. She got a settlement. He got a lesson. I decided right then I'd hide my wealth from everyone. Live modestly, work a regular job, and test anyone I got serious with. Make sure they loved me for me, not for what I could provide. I'd been dating Amanda for 3 years by this point. She'd passed the first phase. Never asked about money, never seemed greedy, seemed genuinely into me. But I needed a bigger test. When her lease was ending, I saw my opportunity. There was a small apartment building for sale near downtown. 8 units. Good bones but needing updates. The price was reasonable. I bought it, paid cash through an LLC called Glenrock Holdings, hired a property management company to keep me anonymous. I told Amanda I knew someone with a unit available below market rate. We could move in together. She was thrilled. We signed a lease as co-tenants, both our names on it. Each paid $1,500 a month. She thought we were just regular renters. She had no idea I owned the building, that her rent money was going into my business account. For 3 years it worked perfectly. We lived together like a normal couple. Split bills, split groceries. She never suspected anything. Then last year I proposed. She said yes. We set a wedding date for this coming June. But 6 months ago things started changing. She began making comments about money, about our future, about how we'd struggle, how we'd never afford a house or nice vacations, or the comfortable life her friends had. I'd reassure her we'd be fine. She'd agree in the moment, then make another comment later. About someone's engagement ring, someone's honeymoon, someone's new car. Always comparing, always noticing what others had that we didn't. 3 months ago she said she wanted to postpone the wedding. Needed to think about things. About our future, about whether we were ready. 2 months ago she made it official. Push the date back, maybe wait another year. She wasn't sure she was ready to marry me because she had concerns about our financial future. I knew what was happening. She was evaluating me based on money and finding me insufficient. After 6 years together, after saying yes to marriage, she was having doubts because she thought I didn't make enough. The part that killed me? I could give her everything she wanted and more. But she didn't know that, and that was the entire point of the test. She was failing. Last weekend was her birthday. She wanted friends over at our apartment. I bought normal supplies, cake, drinks, decorations. 5 friends showed up. Sarah, Jessica, Megan, Rachel, and Nicole. They were drinking, laughing, having fun. The party was going well, and I was being the good host, making sure everyone had what they needed. Around 9, my boss called with a quick work question. I told Amanda I'd be right back and went to the bedroom to take it. The call took maybe 10 minutes. When I finished, I stood up and was about to head back out when I heard my name from the living room. I paused. Something about the tone made me stop in the hallway. Then I heard laughter. I should have walked back in. Instead, I stayed there, just outside the doorway, and listened. Amanda was talking about the wedding. One of her friends asked when it was happening. Amanda laughed and said they'd postponed it, that she needed to think about whether she really wanted to marry someone who's going to struggle financially forever. I stood frozen in that hallway. Sarah asked what she meant. Amanda said, I'm a great guy, but I make $70,000 a year. That's not enough to build a real life on, not in this city. Megan said, that's not bad money. Amanda countered that it's fine money, not good money. There's a difference. Rachel asked if money was really that important. Amanda went quiet for a second before answering. Honestly, yes, if he made more, I'd marry him tomorrow. If he were a doctor or a lawyer. But he's just a regular guy with a regular job, and I don't know if that's enough for me. Her friends made sympathetic noises. Jessica said she needs to figure out what she wants. Amanda said she knows what she wants. Security, not worrying about money, being able to afford nice things without stress. And I can't give her that. Nicole said maybe she should wait then. Amanda agreed. She's waiting to see if maybe I get a better job or something. But if I don't, she trailed off before finishing. If he were richer, I'd marry him in a heartbeat. But he's not, so here we are. They all laughed. Rachel asked if she'd told me this. Amanda said, God no, I'd be devastated. I think we're postponing because she needs time. Which she does. Time to figure out if she can settle for this. Settle. That's the word she used. I stood in that hallway feeling something inside me go completely cold. 6 years of hiding who I was to find someone who'd love me anyway, and I'd found someone who didn't. Someone who thought I wasn't enough, who was waiting for me to magically make more money. Someone who'd marry me if I were richer, but was considering leaving because I wasn't. I took a breath, put on a smile, and walked back into the living room, asked who needs drinks, got refills, played the perfect host, laughed at jokes. Inside, I was done. Completely finished. The party ended around 11. Amanda went to bed drunk and happy. I stayed up making decisions. I pulled out my phone and called my brother, told him everything I'd heard. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked what I was going to do. I'm going to end it. All of it. The relationship and the lease. You're evicting her? Yes, that's cold. She said she'd marry me if I were richer. That she's settling. That I'm not enough. He changed his tune immediately. Okay, yeah, do what you need to do. Sunday I called my property management company, told them I wanted to terminate the lease for Unit 4. I'm the owner and I'm moving out. I want the other tenant removed. They hesitated but confirmed that if I'm reclaiming the unit, it's within my rights. They'd send a 30-day notice to Amanda. Monday was normal. We both worked, had dinner, watched TV. She noticed nothing. Tuesday morning she left for work early. I was home when the courier arrived around 10 with the official eviction notice. Addressed to Amanda Chen. I signed for it as the co-tenant, Opened it, read it. Formal 30-day notice. Owner reclaiming property. All legal. Perfect. I put it on the kitchen counter and went back to work. Amanda came home around 4. I heard her in the kitchen, then heard her exclaim in shock. I came out. She was holding the notice, pale as death. She asked if I'd seen it, just now. What is it? She's being evicted. They're terminating her lease. 30 days to move out. I asked why. It just says owner wants the property back. She looked panicked. This is insane. She's been a perfect tenant. Why would they do this? She grabbed her phone and called the property management company. I listened to her ask why, what she did wrong, whether she can appeal. They must have been polite but firm. It's the owner's decision, nothing personal, just reclaiming the property. She kept pushing and got nowhere. Finally hung up with tears in her eyes. They won't tell her anything, just that the owner wants the unit and she has to leave. She asked what she's supposed to do, where she's supposed to go. Then she looked at me carefully. What about you? Did you get a notice? No. Why not? You're on the lease too? I pulled out my phone and pretended to check. Nothing. She said that's weird. Why just her? She spent the evening calling friends about available apartments. Everything was expensive, way more than she could afford alone. She was stressed, crying, panicking. I acted concerned. She said unless I can convince the owner to let her stay, there's nothing anyone can do. I promised to try. She hugged me and said, at least she has me. I felt nothing. Wednesday morning, I told her we needed to talk. She looked terrified. I need to be honest about something. I'm not getting an eviction notice because I'm the owner. I'm Glenrock Holdings. I own this building. I've owned it for 3 years. She stared at me in complete shock. You're my landlord, yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to see who you really were without knowing about my money. What money? I explained about my trust fund, about getting access at 25, about being wealthy, very wealthy. I make $70,000 because I like working but I don't need to. I have more money than we'd spend in 3 lifetimes. She sat down heavily, looking like she might pass out. You're rich? How rich? Rich enough to buy apartment buildings. Rich enough that I've been sitting on millions while watching you stress about our budget for 3 years. Rich enough to give you everything you said you wanted. She's staring at me and I can see her brain working, calculating. How much? How long? What it all means. Then it hits her. The apartment, the rent, the 3 years. All of it was a test, and she just realized she failed. Then she asked why I'm telling her now. Because I heard what you said at your party. She went white. I was in the hallway. Heard you tell your friends you'd marry me if I were richer, that you're settling for me, that I'm not enough because I only make $70,000, that you're waiting to see if I get a better job. She started crying, said she was drunk and didn't mean it. Drunk words are sober thoughts. You meant every word. You were being honest for once, and you showed me exactly what matters to you. Money, not me. She grabbed my hands desperately. That's not true. I love you. If you loved me, you wouldn't care about the money. But you do. A lot. You postponed our wedding because of it. She admitted she was scared of struggling, of not having enough. We have plenty. We've always had plenty. You just didn't know it. Then she turned it on me. So you've been lying to me for 6 years? Yes, because my brother's ex-wife married him for money. I learned from that. Decided to hide my wealth and see who'd love me without it. You failed that test completely. She stood up angry. You tested me? Like an experiment? Yes, and you showed me you're exactly the kind of person I was trying to avoid. Someone who'd marry me if I were richer, but isn't sure when I'm not. She was crying hard. So you're evicting me, breaking up with me, just like that? Yes, because I made one drunk comment? Because you showed me your true priorities. This is cruel. You know what's cruel? Telling your friends you're settling for someone. She asked where she's supposed to go. That's not my concern. The lease is terminated. You have 30 days. She said she can't afford anything alone. Then move out of the city. Her job is here. Figure it out. You're really doing this? I am. Now you know I'm more than enough. But it's too late. I packed my things while she begged me to reconsider. I loaded my car and left. She stood there crying. I drove to my brother's house and blocked her number. Next morning her mom called crying. Said Amanda called her hysterical, barely making sense. Something about being evicted, about me breaking up with her, about not knowing what to do. Her mom's voice was shaking. She said she doesn't understand what happened. Amanda's always been a good tenant. We were happy. We were getting married. What changed? What did her daughter do wrong? I took a breath. Let me tell you what actually happened. I gave her the short version. Amanda said she'd marry me if I were richer. I heard it. Turns out I am rich. I own the building. I'm ending everything. She's got 30 days. Her mom went quiet before asking if it's true Amanda said that. Yes, word for word. She sighed and said she didn't raise her to be like that. Then Amanda is desperate, asking for help, asking for money. That's between you and her. Can you help her? Please? No. She made her choice. This seems extreme. So is telling your friends you'd marry someone if they had more money. She went quiet, said she understands, and hung up. Week 2, her friend Sarah called. Amanda is falling apart, can't find anywhere affordable. She's gonna have to move back home and lose her teaching job. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? You could help her. You're rich. Why would I do that? Because you loved her. Past tense. She made it clear I wasn't enough. Now she knows I'm enough and more. Too late. You're being cruel. She told her friends she was settling for me. You were there, Sarah. You laughed. She went quiet. Yeah, I heard everything. All of you laughing about how I wasn't good enough. You were drunk, you were honest. Now she deals with the consequences. Day 30 came. Amanda moved out. I heard she went back to her parents' house 2 hours away, had to quit her job, was looking for work near her hometown. I felt nothing. 3 weeks later, her dad called. His voice was calm, measured. Said he'd heard what happened from Amanda and from his wife. But he wanted to hear my version directly before making any judgments. That impressed me. So I told him everything. About my grandfather's business, about the trust fund I got at 25, about my brother's divorce and what it taught me. About deciding to hide my wealth and test anyone I got serious with. I told him about buying the building 3 years ago, about Amanda never knowing, about her comments on money getting worse, about postponing the wedding, about what she said at her birthday party when she thought I couldn't hear. He listened to all of it without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke. You own the building? Yes. She never knew? Correct? Why hide it? I explained about my brother, about wanting someone genuine. And she failed? Spectacularly. He sighed. I understand. I don't blame you. I'm disappointed in my daughter. I thought she was better than that. Is there any chance? None. She's devastated. Says she loves you. She loves what I turned out to be, not what I was. There's a difference. He was quiet. I can't argue with that. I'm sorry it ended this way. Me too. He hung up. 6 months later, I was doing well. Bought a house in a better neighborhood, settled in, started rebuilding my life. No drama, no stress, just peace. My brother asked if I was going to start dating again. I said eventually. No rush. I'd spent 6 years in the wrong relationship. Taking time to figure out what I actually wanted seemed smart. But a couple months later, I met someone at a work conference. Physical therapist, smart, funny, had her own career and money. We took it slow. A few months in, we were having dinner at her apartment. She was making pasta, talking about her work. Mentioned one of her patients, an older woman with great insurance. Then she laughed and said, unlike her insurance, which barely covers anything. Between that and student loans, she's going to be paying off debt until she's 40. I asked how much. About $80,000 from physical therapy school. Worth it though. She loves what she does. She asked if I had student loans. No, scholarships and family help. Lucky, she said, and went back to stirring the sauce. Didn't ask what kind of family help, didn't calculate what that might mean, just moved on. That moment told me something important. She wasn't fishing for information about money, she was just having a normal conversation. It felt completely different from Amanda. A year after everything, I heard Amanda got engaged. I felt nothing. My girlfriend asked how I felt about it. Nothing. Happy for her. She found someone. Good for her. You're very calm about your ex getting married. It's been over a long time. I moved on. She moved on. That's how it works. 2 years later, I proposed to my girlfriend. No games, no tests this time, just an honest proposal because I loved her and she was my partner. She said yes. My brother asked at the engagement party if I ever regretted how I handled Amanda. If I'd do anything differently. I thought about it. No, I wouldn't change anything. Even the harsh ending? especially the harsh ending, because it was clean, clear, final, just consequences. You're cold, I'm honest. There's a difference. Hiding wealth, testing people. Some call it manipulation, I call it protection, because I found out people's true values, made informed decisions, and ended up with someone who loved me for the right reasons. Amanda wanted security and money. She was honest about that when she thought I couldn't hear. I was honest back by ending things and showing her consequences. My fiancée wanted partnership and love. She showed me that from the beginning without knowing she was being tested, just by being herself. That's what made her different. Because at the end of the day, I found someone who loved me for me. Not for my money, not for my potential, not for what I could provide. Just for me. And that's worth more than any trust fund. Worth the 6 years with Amanda, worth the test, worth the harsh ending, worth all of it. Because when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Amanda showed me she'd marry me if I were richer. So I showed her I was richer, and told her it was too late. She wanted someone with money. She got someone with money who didn't want her. That's not cold, that's consequence. In today's Reddit story, my fiancé's phone lit up with a message. Last night was unreal. Can't wait for round 2. She snatched it and said, "Babe, it's a stupid inside joke. Don't freak out." So I played along. This morning, she came home to find the locks changed and a screenshot of the text taped to the door. Now she's crying at my job. I never planned on checking her phone. It just happened. We were sitting on the couch, a normal night, watching a show neither of us cared about. Her phone was face up on the coffee table. Then it lit up. A preview of a message popped up. "Last night was unreal. Can't wait for round 2. My body went still. My first thought? Spam message. Wrong number. Some mistake. Then I saw the name. Nathan. I wasn't familiar with a Nathan, but she was. Because before I could even react, she lunged forward and grabbed the phone so fast she nearly knocked over her drink. Her face said everything. Panic. Her eyes darted to me, her grip on the phone tightening like it was her lifeline. Then she forced a smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. "Babe, don't freak out." She let out a small laugh, too casual. "It's a stupid inside joke. Nothing serious." Inside joke. Nothing serious. That's what she said. But her knuckles were white around the phone, and she wouldn't stop staring at me, gauging my reaction. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. I had 2 options. Option 1, get angry, demand answers, start a fight. Option 2, play dumb. Let her think she got away with it. I chose option 2. I leaned back, forcing a chuckle. "Oh, okay." Her shoulders relaxed immediately. She bought it. And that was the moment she lost. Because while she slept peacefully that night, thinking I was a fool, I was already planning to tear her entire world apart. Sienna thought she got away with it. That was her mistake. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She kissed me before heading to work, told me she loved me. She even hummed to herself as she walked out the door. She was too comfortable, too sure that I'd never question her. But me? I was already 10 steps ahead. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway. Then, I grabbed her old iPad. She never used it, left it collecting dust in the closet. But I remembered something important. She once told me, all my Apple devices are synced. I held my breath as I powered it on. The moment it booted up, her messages loaded instantly. And just like that, the floodgates opened. What I found in the messages, Nathan wasn't just some random guy, he was her coworker. Their entire relationship was there in black and white. Months of messages, photos, voicemails, her telling him that she was working late when she was really at his place, her calling me a safety net, her saying she was keeping me around until she was sure Nathan was serious. My hands clenched around the iPad. I knew she had betrayed me. But seeing it spelled out like that, seeing her mock me, laugh about me, that was a different kind of pain, a different kind of rage. But I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to destroy her. Revenge wasn't just about payback. It was about timing. Sienna had a routine. Every Thursday night, she went out for work drinks, said it was networking. But now I knew better. So this time, I told her, "Have fun, babe. Don't wait up for me." And while she was gone, I changed everything. At exactly 7:15 p.m., I had a locksmith at the house. By 8 p.m., every lock was changed. By 8:30 p.m., I was packing her things. Clothes, shoes, makeup, every little thing she had ever left in my home. I wasn't dumping them. I was delivering them. By 9 p.m., her bags were neatly placed outside the door. And taped right above them, a single sheet of paper. A screenshot of the message that started it all. "Last night was unreal. Can't wait for round 2. By the time she came home, I was already parked across the street. I watched as she pulled into the driveway, completely oblivious. Then she got out, walked up the steps, saw the bags, stopped. I could see her confusion first. Then, as she took in the screenshot taped to the door, confusion turned into pure panic. She dropped her purse, fumbled for her phone, started frantically calling me. My phone buzzed in my lap. I didn't pick up. She tried again, then the text started. Matthew, what is this? Why are my things outside? Babe, please answer me, I can explain. Matthew, please, this isn't funny. I watched from my car as she banged on the door, tried the locks, realized they were changed. Her panic was setting in fast. She wasn't just locked out, she was shut out. Her world was crumbling. And me, I just sat back and enjoyed the show. Sienna was still outside, pacing back and forth, trying to call me over and over. I let my phone buzz, let the messages pile up, because I wasn't done yet. Locking her out was just the first strike. Now, it was time to make sure everyone else knew exactly who she was. Step 1. Telling her friends. Sienna loved her image, loved being the center of attention. She had carefully curated her life, made sure her friends saw her as the perfect girlfriend, the one who was so lucky to have such a loving, loyal fiancé. So, I decided to correct the record. I pulled up a group chat, one she had with her closest friends. Took a deep breath, then sent the first message. Me, hey everyone, just wanted to clear something up. Sienna won't be moving forward with the wedding anymore. Turns out she's been seeing someone else for months. Here's some proof. And then, I dropped the screenshots, the text that started it all. Messages where she laughed about keeping me as a backup plan. Her telling Nathan, ugh, I hate pretending with him, at least you make it fun. I watched as the little typing bubbles appeared, then the responses came flooding in. Megan, are you serious? Jake, dude, I had no idea, I'm so sorry man. Rachel, what a disgusting human being, blocked. Lisa, oh my god, I can't believe I defended her, I'm so sorry Matthew. Within 5 minutes she had lost her entire social circle, and she didn't even know it yet. Step 2. Letting her family know I wasn't stopping at her friends. Her parents, they needed to know too. I kept it short and simple. Hey Mrs. Paul, I just wanted to let you know that Sienna won't be needing that wedding dress anymore. She's been cheating on me for months. Just figured you should hear it from me before you spend more money on the wedding. 3 minutes later, my phone rang. Her mom. I let it go to voicemail because Sienna wasn't my problem anymore. Sienna worked at a high-end marketing firm, a company where reputation was everything. And guess who she was cheating with? A married coworker. I had proof, and the next morning, I used it. I sent an anonymous email to HR. Subject, inappropriate workplace relationship, urgent. To whom it may concern, I'm reaching out anonymously to inform you that 2 employees at your firm, Sienna Paul and Nathan Miller, have been engaging in an inappropriate relationship that violates your company's workplace conduct policy. Please see the attached screenshots. I thought you should be aware before this becomes a bigger issue. Attached, all the proof they needed. Within hours, Nathan was fired. And Sienna, she wasn't fired immediately. But let's just say, being the woman who gets caught having an affair with a married coworker, not great for career growth. By mid-afternoon, Sienna was desperate. Her life was falling apart in real time. And she needed someone to blame. So she came to my job, stormed past the receptionist, her voice cut through the entire office. Matthew, we need to talk. People stopped what they were doing, heads turned. I stood up slowly, arms crossed, completely calm. I'm at work, Sienna. You shouldn't be here. She was unraveling. Tears in her eyes, mascara smudged. She looked nothing like the confident woman she was 2 days ago. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you trying to ruin my life? I let out a slow breath, then I shook my head. I didn't ruin your life, Sienna. You did. I just let everyone see the truth. Her voice broke. Matthew, please, I can fix this. I tilted my head, studying her. Then I turned around, walked back to my desk and sat down. Go home, Sienna. Oh wait, you don't have one. Then I opened my laptop, and just like that, I got back to work. Sienna, she just stood there, staring, crumbling. And then, she left, for good. My fiancé dumped me out of nowhere, saying she needed to find herself. A week later, she called crying that she still needed my support as a friend. I didn't yell, I didn't beg, I just told her to check the mail. What she found inside made her go silent on the call. It happened on a Tuesday. I remember because we had just paid the rent for our apartment the day before. We were sitting on the couch after dinner, and there was no fight, no warning. My fiancée, Megan, just turned to me with a look of calm finality and said she was leaving. After 4 years together, 2 of them engaged, it was over. I need to find myself, she said. It was the oldest cliché in the book, and she delivered it like it was a profound revelation. I feel like I've lost who I am. I need to be on my own, to figure things out. This isn't about you, it's about me. I didn't yell, I didn't beg. Years of working as a project manager have taught me that emotions don't solve problems. You just analyze the new data and adjust the project timeline. Our project was over. I just looked at her, at the woman I thought I was going to spend my life with, and I saw a stranger making a business decision. Okay, I said. When are you leaving? My lack of a dramatic reaction seemed to throw her. She probably had a whole speech prepared for my tears or my anger. I'm going to stay at my sister's place for a while, she said. I'll pack a bag tonight and get the rest of my stuff later. And that was that. She packed a suitcase, I helped her carry it to her car, and she drove away. The engagement ring was left on the coffee table. The silence in the apartment was deafening. For a few days, I just went through the motions. I went to work, I came home, I ate dinner alone. I started making a list, the way I do for any project that's gone off the rails. A list of all the things that were now my sole responsibility. All the loose ends from our shared life. Our wedding was supposed to be in 3 months. We had deposits down on everything. A beautiful old barn for the venue, a photographer, a caterer, a band, a honeymoon to Italy, all planned and mostly paid for. For the past year, my life had been a series of spreadsheets and payment plans, all leading up to a day that was now never going to happen. A week after she left, she called. I answered, thinking it was about getting the rest of her things. It wasn't. "Hey," she said, her voice small and shaky. "How are you holding up?" "I'm managing," I said. "Good," she said. "Listen, I know this is hard, but I was hoping that we could still be friends. I still really need your support right now. This is a really confusing time for me, and you've always been my rock." I just sat there, holding the phone, a cold, quiet anger building inside me. My rock. She had just detonated our entire life, our entire future, for a vague journey of self-discovery, and now she wanted me to be her emotional support animal while she was on it. She wanted the comfort of my presence without any of the commitment. She wanted a friend. "Okay," I said, my voice flat, "we can be friends." "Oh, thank God," she said, a wave of relief in her voice. "You're the best, Mark. I knew you'd understand." "I do understand," I said. "But since we're just friends now, there's some stuff we need to clear up. Check your mail tomorrow." She was confused. "The mail? Why?" "Just check it," I said. "Talk to you later." I hung up before she could ask any more questions. She had no idea what I had been doing for the past week. I hadn't just been moping around. I had been working. I had spent every evening on the phone and online, methodically dismantling the future we were supposed to have. And I had kept every single receipt. That night, I assembled a package. It was a thick 9x12 envelope. Inside, I put a series of documents, each one in its own clear plastic sleeve. Document 1 was a copy of the contract for the wedding venue. I had highlighted the cancellation clause, which stated that the $10,000 deposit was non-refundable. Document 2 was the receipt from the caterer. Their policy was a little more forgiving. They were only keeping half of the $5,000 deposit, so a loss of $2,500. Document 3 was the invoice from the photographer she had insisted on, a trendy artist who demanded a non-refundable booking fee of $3,000. Document 4 was the confirmation of our canceled flights to Italy. I had gotten the flight credit, but the booking fees were gone. Another $500 down the drain. Document 5 was the real masterpiece. It was a receipt for her wedding dress. She had bought it 3 weeks earlier. She had found a designer she loved, and the dress had to be custom made. The total cost was $8,000. She had paid for it on a credit card that was in both of our names, but for which I was the primary account holder. I was the one who paid the bill every month from my personal bank account. I had called the credit card company the day after she left and had her removed as an authorized user. Then I had called the bridal shop. The dress was finished, and per the contract she had signed, it was non-returnable. The full amount was due. The final document in the package was a spreadsheet. On the top, in a clean, bold font, it said, "Project Closure, Wedding." It listed every single non-refundable deposit and cancellation fee. The venue, the caterer, the photographer, the flights. The total came to $16,000. Then I added the $8,000 wedding dress. Grand total, $24,000. At the bottom of the spreadsheet, I had written a simple sentence. Total cost of finding yourself, $24,000. As we are now just friends, I've calculated your half of the shared project cancellation fees. Your portion is $12,000. Please remit payment at your earliest convenience. I put all the documents in the envelope, sealed it, and sent it via overnight courier to her sister's address. It would be there in the morning. The next day, I was at work when she called. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again, and again. Finally, on the 5th try, I picked up. I didn't say anything. I just waited. I got your package, she said. Her voice was trembling with a mixture of shock and fury. What is this? Are you serious? It's a project closure report, I said, my voice calm. Standard practice. A project closure report? She shrieked. You're sending me a bill for our breakup? This is insane. You can't be serious. Why not? I asked. You wanted my support as a friend. Real friends don't stick their buddies with a $24,000 bill for a party they decided to cancel. You broke the engagement, Megan. You are responsible for the consequences of that decision. This is what those consequences look like in black and white. I'm not paying this, she yelled. You can't make me. You're right, I can't, I said. But the $8,000 dress is your debt. You signed the contract. It's sitting at the shop, waiting for you to pick it up. If you don't pay for it, I'm sure their collections department will be in touch. As for the other $16,000, if you choose not to pay your half, then you're not a friend. You're just a person who cost me a lot of money. And I don't keep people like that in my life. The choice is yours. She went silent on the call. The silence stretched for a full 30 seconds. I could hear her breathing, the sound of her world collapsing in on itself. She had expected to float away on a cloud of self-discovery, with me as her safety net below. I had just cut the net. I hate you, she finally whispered. I know, I said, and I hung up. The fallout was immediate. Her sister Katie, who she was living with, called me that night, screaming about how I was a monster, how I was kicking Megan when she was down. She's going through a hard time and you pull this? Katie yelled. Is she going to pay her half of the bills or not? I asked calmly. Of course not. You're the one with the good job, you can afford it. You're being petty and vindictive. So she wants the freedom of being single, but the financial benefits of being with me, I said. That's not how it works. You can tell her the offer stands. Pay her half and we can be friends. Otherwise, she's just a bad investment I'm writing off. I hung up. Then came the social media smear campaign. Megan posted a long, tearful story on Instagram about how her toxic ex was trying to financially ruin her for having the courage to choose her own happiness. She conveniently left out the details of the $24,000 bill. A few of our mutual friends chimed in with their support for her, leaving comments about how I was a classic case of a man punishing a woman for leaving him. Her post was full of hashtags like healing, self-love, and moving on. I didn't engage. I just sent a single, polite email to the 3 or 4 friends I actually cared about. The subject was, for your information. In the email, I attached the same documents I had sent to Megan, the contracts, the cancellation receipts, and the spreadsheet. I ended the email with, this is not a punishment. This is just the invoice for a canceled project. I thought you should have the full story before choosing a side. The narrative changed pretty quickly after that. One of those friends, a guy named Sam, called me and apologized. Man, I had no idea, he said. She made it sound like you were just being a jerk. But you just want her to pay for her own wedding dress and half the deposits. That's not crazy, that's just fair. He told me he and a few others had called her out in their group chat, and she had a complete meltdown, calling them all unsupportive and kicking them from the chat. The real fun started a few weeks later. The bridal shop, after weeks of leaving unanswered messages for Megan, finally sent her official account to a collection agency. Her journey of self-discovery now came with threatening letters and a rapidly tanking credit score. She got desperate. She showed up at my apartment one night, unannounced. I was just getting home from the gym. She was crying. Real tears this time. You have to help me, she begged. They're ruining my credit. I can't even get approved for my own apartment. Please, Mark, just pay for the dress. I'll pay you back, I swear. No, I said. Why are you being like this? She cried. I thought we were friends. You said you'd support me. I am supporting you, I said. I am supporting your journey to find yourself. Real adulthood, the kind you're looking for, is about taking responsibility for your own choices. You chose the dress. You chose to end the engagement. Now you have to choose to pay your bills. This is what finding yourself looks like. It's not a yoga retreat in Bali. It's a call from a collection agency. I closed the door and left her standing in the hallway. The next escalation came from an unexpected source. About a month after the breakup, I was at a work happy hour with some colleagues. One of the guys from the sales department, a guy named Ben who I barely knew, came over to me. "Hey Mark, can I talk to you for a second?" he said. He looked awkward. We stepped outside. "Listen man," he said. "This is probably none of my business, but I feel like you should know. I've been seeing someone, a woman named Megan." I just kept my face neutral. "Okay." "She told me a wild story about her ex-fiancé," he said, looking at me. "A project manager who went crazy after she left him and tried to bankrupt her. She didn't say your name, but we work at the same company and, well, I put two and two together." "And?" I asked. "And I've been dating her for about 2 months," he said. "We met about a month before she broke up with you." My blood went cold. Finding herself wasn't a solo journey. She had lined up my replacement before she jumped ship. "She told me you guys were basically over for a year," he said, looking embarrassed. "She said you were just roommates and that she was trying to find a way out. The whole finding myself thing was just her way of trying to let you down easy." "I see," I said. The betrayal was so much deeper than I had thought. "Look," Ben said, "I'm not a bad guy. I didn't know she was engaged. When I found out the real timeline and when she told me about the money stuff, I started digging. A friend of mine knows your buddy Sam. I heard the real story. I just wanted you to know that I broke up with her last night, and I told her exactly why. Because she's a liar." I shook his hand. "Thanks, man. I appreciate you telling me." So the real reason for the breakup wasn't a journey of self-discovery. It was a simple trade-up, and it had failed. After the conversation with Ben, I thought the worst was over. It wasn't. The next phase of this project involved her parents. I got a call from her father, a man I had always respected. He was a partner at a law firm, and his voice had the kind of calm authority that could make you feel small. "Mark," he said, "Megan has told me about this invoice, and I have to say I'm deeply disappointed. This isn't how a gentleman behaves." "With all due respect, sir," I said, "a gentleman doesn't get left with a $24,000 bill. Megan made a unilateral decision to end our engagement. I'm just allocating the costs of that decision." "This is beneath you," he said, his voice hardening. "You're a successful man. This is a rounding error for you. For her, it's a crippling debt. You are using your financial power to punish her, and I won't stand for it." "So what are you suggesting?" I asked. "You will cease all attempts to collect this so-called debt," he said. "You will pay the bridal shop, and in return, we will consider the matter closed. If you do not, I will be forced to take legal action for harassment." "What grounds for harassment?" I asked. "Intentional infliction of emotional distress," he said, without a hint of irony. "Your actions have caused my daughter severe anxiety and have damaged her reputation." I just laughed. Her reputation was damaged when she lied to our friends, and when the man she left me for dumped her for being a liar. My actions have only brought a little bit of financial reality to her situation. But since you want to talk about legal action, let's do that. I had been doing my own research. I have a signed contract from a bridal shop with Megan's signature on it. That's a legally binding debt. I also have a record of her using our joint credit card for thousands of dollars in personal expenses, which I can prove I paid for. If you want to go to court, we can go to court. We can have her explain to a judge why she believes her ex-fiancé should be financially responsible for a wedding dress for a wedding she canceled to be with another man. How do you think that will look?" There was a long silence on his end. He had expected me to fold. He wasn't used to people calling his bluff. "You're making a mistake," he finally said, and hung up. The lawsuit never came, but the threats weren't over. A week later, I got a call from my own boss. He told me that he had received an anonymous email sent to the company's HR department. The email accused me of creating a hostile work environment by harassing a colleague's new partner. It was a clear reference to Ben and Megan. It was a desperate, stupid attempt to get me fired. My boss, a good man who had been my mentor for years, just asked me one question: "Is there anything I should be worried about?" "No," I said. I forwarded him the email I had sent to my friends with all the documentation. I told him the whole story, including the part about Ben. He called me back an hour later. "Okay," he said. "This is a mess, but it's a personal mess. It has nothing to do with your work here. Don't worry about it. HR is deleting the email. But Mark, be careful. This woman sounds unhinged." The last I heard, her parents had to bail her out and pay for the dress. They were furious. The perfect, carefree daughter who had been on a brave journey of empowerment was suddenly an expensive liability. Her relationship with her sister soured too. Apparently, living with a broke, miserable, and debt-ridden sibling is not as fun as it sounds. Ben, of course, wanted nothing to do with her. She had tried to ruin my career, and he was disgusted. About 6 months after the breakup, I was on a date with someone new. We were at a nice restaurant downtown, and across the room I saw her, Megan. She was on a date too, with a guy who looked a lot like me, only older and I suspected richer. She saw me and her eyes went wide. I was with a beautiful, intelligent woman, and we were laughing. I wasn't just surviving without her, I was happy. She just stared, a look of pure, unadulterated shock on her face. The guy she had written off, the guy she thought would be her loyal, supportive friend forever, had moved on and upgraded. I didn't smirk. I didn't wave. I just gave her a polite little nod, a nod that said, "I hope you found what you were looking for." Then I turned back to my date and forgot she even existed. In today's Reddit story, "He's too dumb to question it," my wife laughed as she secretly tricked me into raising another man's baby. "He'll never find out." I just stayed silent until the day she opened a letter and realized she'd just signed away full custody to the real father. My name is Ethan, 32M, and for the past 5 years, I thought I had a solid marriage with my wife, Lena, 30F. We weren't perfect, but I loved her. She was charming, kind, at least that's what I thought. A few months ago, she dropped a bombshell. "Ethan, I'm pregnant." At first I was stunned. We had agreed not to have kids yet. Lena had insisted she was still on birth control. But before I could even process my emotions, she looked at me expectantly, almost like she was waiting to see how I'd react. I played along, smiling and hugging her, though something about her energy felt off. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The math wasn't adding up. She was supposedly on birth control. We hadn't been intimate as often lately, due to my work schedule. The last time we were together wasn't even in the right time frame for conception. Doubt crept in. But still, I didn't want to assume the worst. I convinced myself, maybe accidents happen. Maybe it's just a miracle baby. But my gut told me something was wrong. The moment everything clicked, 2 weeks later, I was in the living room when I heard Lena giggling on the phone. She was in the kitchen, not even bothering to lower her voice. "Oh my God, he has no idea," she snickered. "I swear, Ethan's too dumb to ever question it. He'll never find out." My stomach dropped. She was talking about me. She lowered her voice, making it harder to hear, but at that point, I didn't need to. I sat frozen on the couch, my mind racing. Find out what? Find out that the baby wasn't mine? That she had been cheating? That she had planned this? I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to breathe. My instinct was to barge in and confront her right there. But no, she was too confident, too smug. She thought I was clueless. That meant I had the advantage. I took a deep breath and silently walked out of the house. I wasn't about to make accusations without proof. If I was going to take her down, I needed evidence. Check her phone? Too risky. She was protective of it. Look through our bank statements? Not helpful. Track where she goes? Bingo. That night, I planted a small GPS tracker in her car. Nothing illegal, just a simple location-sharing device tied to our family's shared network. If she wasn't hiding anything, there'd be no issue. 3 days later, I checked the data. Her regular stops all made sense: work, grocery store, gym. But one new address kept appearing late at night, an apartment complex across town. My pulse quickened. This was it. I drove over and parked a block away. I wasn't going to storm in. I just needed to see. I waited, and sure enough, at exactly 10:45 p.m., Lena's car pulled into the lot. A man stepped out of a third-floor apartment and walked toward her. He was smiling. They hugged. She kissed him. I felt sick, but I still needed to know who the hell he was. I snapped a few discreet photos and ran them through social media searches. Within minutes, I had his name. Marcus, 35M, a former coworker of hers. Recently divorced, no kids. This wasn't just some random affair, this was planned. I drove home in silence. A million emotions ran through me: rage, betrayal, disgust. But underneath it all, a new feeling emerged. Clarity. I now knew the truth. She had been cheating. She was pregnant with another man's child. She had no idea I had caught her. and that was my greatest weapon. I wasn't just going to leave, she was going to suffer. I sat in my car for almost an hour that night, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Everything inside me wanted to storm into that apartment, confront Marcus, and scream at Lena for betraying me. But I didn't. Because if I confronted her now, she'd just lie. She'd gaslight me, cry, and say, "It was a mistake," or "It's still your baby, Ethan. You'll be a great dad." No, she needed to believe she had me under her thumb. I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to take everything from her. I needed proof. Hard, undeniable proof. The affair had photos of her with Marcus. The paternity fraud? Not yet. Legal protection? I needed a lawyer. First, I started digging into her phone records. I pulled up our shared phone bill, which logged all outgoing calls and texts. Hundreds of calls to Marcus. Late-night texts every single day. A few days before she announced the pregnancy, she texted him. I told him. He totally bought it. I took screenshots of everything and backed them up. Now I had direct evidence of deception. Since I couldn't legally demand a paternity test yet, I had to be smart about it. One evening, I casually brought up genetics. "Hey, did your parents ever have any weird genetic conditions?" "Lena, why?" "I was reading about how doctors are doing early genetic testing on newborns. They can catch diseases early now." Her eyes didn't even flicker. She had no idea what I was doing. A week later, when she went to the doctor, I called the clinic. "Hey, I just want to confirm something. My wife is pregnant, and I want to make sure they do a full genetic screening when the baby is born." Nurse: "Of course, many parents opt for it. Would you like to add the full panel?" "Yes, I heard that includes paternity confirmation too, right?" "That's correct." I just got her to unknowingly agree to a DNA test at birth. Here's something a lot of men don't know. If you sign the birth certificate, you're legally on the hook for child support, even if the baby isn't yours. I needed to make sure I didn't sign anything. So I called my lawyer. Hypothetically speaking, what happens if a married man finds out his wife is pregnant with another man's baby? Are you asking for a friend? Yeah. Let's say the wife commits paternity fraud. Can he avoid child support? Yes, but only if he contests paternity immediately and refuses to sign the birth certificate. Now I knew exactly what I had to do. As long as I refused to sign, I was legally free. I needed her to sign away custody to the real father. But how do you make someone sign something without realizing it? That's when I had an idea. One night, I sat Lena down and acted excited about the baby. "Hey, I've been thinking, we should plan ahead, just in case something happens to us. Like, legally. What if we both got sick? We should set up a document that ensures the baby is taken care of, right?" She shrugged, not even looking at the papers I slid in front of her. What was buried inside? A clause that transferred custody rights to the biological father in case of a dispute. She didn't even read it. She just signed. Now, all I had to do was wait for the DNA results. I kept playing the role of the loving, supportive husband while she secretly laughed behind my back. She still thought I was too dumb to ever figure it out. She had no idea that her entire world was about to collapse. For weeks, I kept up the perfect husband act. I still rubbed her belly. I still talked about baby names. I still let her believe she had me completely fooled. But every morning, I checked my email like a man waiting for a bomb to drop. Then, one day, it arrived. Subject: genetic screening results, confirmation of parentage. I opened the email and scrolled down until I saw it. Paternity test, 0.0%, probability of relationship. There it was, cold, undeniable proof. Lena's entire plan just collapsed. I wasn't the father, and legally, I never would be. I exhaled slowly, my heart pounding, not with panic, but with satisfaction. Most men would have stormed into the house, screaming. I didn't, because Lena still thought she had me trapped. That night, I walked into the kitchen, calm and quiet. She was scrolling through her phone, sipping tea, completely oblivious. I slid an envelope across the table. "Lena, the hospital sent over the genetic results. I thought you'd want to see them." She barely glanced up, smiling. "Oh, finally. See, I told you there was nothing to worry about." Then she opened it, and I watched her face drop. "What the hell is this?" She frantically scanned the document, her fingers tightening around the paper. "Ethan, this has to be a mistake." "It's not." I slid another document across the table. do you remember when I told you we should ensure the baby's legal protection? Her eyes flicked to the paperwork. Her own signature stared back at her. Clause 7b. In the event of any paternity dispute, full parental rights are assigned to the biological father. Ethan Carter, me, waives all paternal rights. Marcus Gray, her lover, assumes legal responsibility. Her breath hitched. Ethan, no, you tricked me. No, Lena, I just let you believe I was dumb. Her hands were shaking. Wait, this doesn't matter. Marcus won't take the baby. I'll still... Her phone buzzed on the table. I smiled. You should answer that. She snatched her phone and answered. Lena, Marcus, Lena, what the hell did you do? What are you talking about? I just got a legal notice from family court saying I'm listed as the father. Baby, don't worry, you can just deny it. Are you an idiot? I have 30 days to contest it. If I don't, I'm legally the father by default. Wait, what? That's not how this works. It is now. You signed papers saying I'm the father. But, Marcus, you said you'd be there for me. I'm not paying for a kid I never wanted. I'm moving to another state. Click. He hung up. She turned to me, her mouth opening and closing. Ethan, you can still fix this. Please, just say you'll be the dad. Please. I stood up. Lena, I was never this baby's father. You made sure of that. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Ethan, wait, Lena screamed. I walked out. After Marcus abandoned her, Lena had only one option left, try to drag me back in. She knew I had legally removed myself from the child's life, but she still believed she could manipulate the system to get money from me. So she did the one thing desperate people do. She took me to court. Lena's argument, Your Honor, Ethan was my husband during my pregnancy. Legally, he should be responsible for the baby. I sat in the courtroom, completely calm. I had been waiting for this. Her lawyer stood up dramatically, launching into a speech about marital obligations and financial responsibilities. Your Honor, my client was deceived into signing documents she did not understand. She is now the single mother of a child, and we are seeking child support from her husband. I just smirked and turned to my lawyer. Your Honor, we have overwhelming evidence that Mrs. Carter knowingly committed paternity fraud. And then we dropped the bombshell. First, we submitted the DNA test results. Proven, I was not the father. Proven, Lena was fully aware she had cheated. Second, we presented the signed custody clause. Proven, Lena voluntarily signed a legal document transferring parental responsibility to Marcus. The judge leaned back in his chair and sighed. Mrs. Carter, did you knowingly deceive Mr. Carter about the child's paternity? Lena swallowed hard. I mean, I thought maybe it could be his. Mrs. Carter, answer the question. Yes. Boom. She had just destroyed herself. The judge turned to Lena's lawyer, looking unimpressed. Your client's entire case is based on deception. Mr. Carter is under no legal obligation to support this child. My name was legally removed from anything related to the child. The court dismissed Lena's case immediately. Lena looked like she wanted to cry, but the final blow was yet to come. Since Marcus never contested the paternity notice in time, the court legally recognized him as the father, which meant they dragged him into this mess. He tried to argue his way out of it. Your Honor, I never agreed to this. She tricked me. Mr. Gray, did you contest the paternity claim within the legal time frame? No, but then under the law, you are the legal father. Your options are as follows. Take full custody or pay child support. Marcus's face turned white. I can't take care of a baby. Judge, then you will be required to pay child support for the next 18 years. Lena whipped her head around, horrified. Wait, what? You have to take responsibility, Marcus. Like hell I do. This is your kid, not mine. I just sat there, watching them destroy each other. Marcus was legally forced to pay. Lena had no financial support from me. She was officially abandoned and alone. After the court case, Lena lost everything. She was stuck raising a baby alone. She had no financial support from me. Marcus disappeared after the ruling, but he still had to pay child support. She called me multiple times, begging me to reconsider. I never answered. I finalized my divorce. I moved to a new city, cutting off everyone from my past. I met someone new, someone who actually respects me. And Lena? She was stuck in a life she thought she could force me into. She had gambled and lost everything.